boom, I'm married a year later, and all of that goes out the window, and we're moving overseas, and I'm getting this, hey, welcome to the Navy. Don't expect to have a job or a career. So that was a tough pill to swallow. And but, at first I thought, nah, that's not going to apply to me. I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to start my business again, so on and so forth. And I tried and failed.
Here's part 2 of our interview with Stephanie Brown. If you missed part 1, you can click the link up in the top right corner. In this episode, we talk about the life of a military spouse, some of her struggles and challenges, and advice for those spouses who may be going through the struggle currently. Without further ado, let's jump right into it. Stephanie, if we were friends in high school, who was Stephanie Brown? And how did you find yourself as a military spouse?
If we were friends in high school, it would depend because I went to 4 different high schools. My father was active duty in the Air Force. So one high school in particular, we were stationed at Upper Heyford. I went to Upper Heyford High School in England. We might have known each other in ROTC. Yes, I was a total nerdball and I joined ROTC. I love doing the drills. I don't know why, but I couldn't do them today, but it was. And then I did math tutoring and sold popcorn during lunch. I did math tutoring, and it's hilarious because I am terrible at math. Something happened in my brain from high school to today that just said, no, math is not going to work. But yeah, we would have been, ROTC or, and then when I also in England, on the weekends, I would ride my little banana seat one speeder. Remember those?
Yeah.
Little banana seat one speeders, about 6 miles out in the country. And just to ride horses, I had to spend hours shoveling horse manure first for a small, horse farm. And then I got to ride horses. So if you did one of those things, then hey, we could have been friends. We would have been friends.
That's awesome. So how did you find yourself as a spouse? Did you run into your husband on base, or was that after your father got out of the military, or how did that happen?
Yeah, when my dad retired, God rest his soul, he retired as a 100% service, permanently disabled Vietnam veteran, and he opened up a music store in California, which is kind of where the entrepreneur bug bit me, because I would help run the store. But fast forward, I was living in Washington D.C. at the time, and I was in a little card gift shop, right? And I had just come back from the gym. I don't go to the gym anymore. I shovel horse manure. That's my daily workout. So, thus, obviously, I have horses. And somebody was standing behind me, and I kind of glanced back, and we got to talking, and it was this nice, tall, handsome, good-looking guy. And I had no idea what a Navy SEAL was. In fact, I don't think anybody knew what a Navy SEAL was back then. But and he certainly didn't announce himself that way. I didn't know he was until many, many, many months later. And we were married a year later. We were married a year later. So I grew up in the military. My mom was a military spouse. I married into the military, and I have raised 2 boys in the military. So it is, it's a journey, and as I said before, I went from being a business owner. I was a business owner at the time. Come to learn that I was making a lot more money than Tom was, and he was a young officer stationed at the Pentagon. And probably made more money in that when I owned those businesses than he ever did, even when he retired as an admiral. I made more money back then. But that aside, it was love. It was really, I became frustrated. Like I couldn't find a job. I couldn't work in my field. And I just remember seeing a lot of other spouses suffering and kind of going through the same, frustrating journey and trying to find themselves, build something of their own, and raise kids at the same time, and being prepared to move every 2 to 3 years. But, I realized that this life is what you make of it, right? So it is what you make of it. And you can look at it as an adventure, or you can look at it in a more negative way. So I think a lot of military spouses look at it as an adventure. What can I make of this, right? How do I get, our kids or myself excited about, the next opportunity and where we're going? And certainly if you're self-employed, it's a lot easier to pick up and move than it is to leave a job and then go through the whole process all over again to try to find one.
Sure.
Wherever you are.
So
that's the story, and I'm sticking to it.
So your husband was a SEAL, special operator. They can get called up at a moment's notice and be gone. What was that like for you and the children to know that could come at any moment? And then how did you deal with it along the way?
Well, I think, in part growing up in this life definitely prepared me more as a military spouse. But even if I hadn't, I think you have to build something for yourself. Your life cannot evolve just around your spouse, your service member. You have to build something for you. It doesn't matter how small it is or how grandiose it is, something for you. And I've always been an independent person. I grew up with brothers, so I was a tomboy. I never wore dresses, and anytime my parents tried to get me in a dress or do my hair, go to church, I always fought kicking and screaming. So I was always independent, and outdoors and very active. But that served me well. I have an adventurous spirit, and even if you don't, surround yourself with others that do, because they will take you on amazing adventures. Some of the places and things that I've done and seen, a lot of them I have to attribute to other spouses who said, I've been in this for a lot longer. Come on, we're gonna go. We're gonna get in the car and we're gonna go, on a trip. We're gonna go visit this pottery barn, a pottery factory, or we're gonna go have lunch. We're gonna take the kids to the beach, whatever. Surround yourself with the right people. Don't surround yourself with people that are, this is terrible, this life sucks, don't do that. Intentionally find people that are going to, open doors and lift you up. Get your own cheering team, everybody needs one.
Absolutely. So that was kind of your process then. If you moved from, you lived in how many different places growing up with your father, and then then you married into the military and continued that trend.
That's what happened.
Was it kind of frustrating over time for you to, you had to move to a new place and then you had to make new friends and do everything all over again?
It wasn't so much the moving, and because again, having grown up, and it wasn't so much making new friends. It's hard to leave friends, but that's something that we all become very, very used to. And luckily, today with Zoom and the internet, and you can video call your friends from your phone, you can and should stay connected, because you never know when your paths will cross again. So, but I think sometimes it's harder for kids, so that makes it more difficult, for us as moms or dads. But it's really, it like I said, it's what you make of it, and you're building a network, which, especially if you become a business owner, may help you out. But I think the thing that was the most frustrating for me was I went from owning a successful small business, and I worked very hard at it, and it was in my field. So it's what I went to school for. That was my business, and I describe it as I had the perfect job. I had the perfect job. It was my passion, my expertise, and I loved it. I worked hard, very, very hard, but I loved it. And then suddenly, that fateful day, standing in line trying to buy a birthday card for my friend, and this guy's standing behind me, and the next thing you know, I'm having lunch, and then he's calling me, and we're going out to dinner, and boom, I'm married a year later, and all of that goes out the window, and we're moving overseas, and I'm getting this, hey, welcome to the Navy. Don't expect to have a job or a career. So that was a tough pill to swallow. And, but, at first I thought, nah, that's not going to apply to me. I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to start my business again, so on and so forth. And I tried and failed. But I surrounded myself with other spouses, and I also realized that I wasn't alone. I wasn't alone. This was not a unique journey and challenge to Stephanie. It was very common amongst military spouses. I remember going into the NEX overseas and said, hey, would like to apply for a job. I noticed you have this job opening. It's kind of sort of in my field. I'm way overqualified. I didn't say that, but it'll keep me busy and so on and so forth. And the manager never even contacted me back. So you'll have those stories. You'll get that, hey, I'm going to do this, and then you get punched in the gut. So that's why you got to have that team. You got to have those friends and that network that you can go to and gripe and complain. And then they go, hey, let's go have lunch and, let's talk about other opportunities, or come on, you can do it, Stephanie. But that was really the hardest part. And it wasn't until I approached it from a problem-solving perspective that I saw the opportunity. Which eventually became the Rosie Network, Rosie's List, and everything else. I tell my team, they know they can always come to me with a problem. They can always come to me, hey, Stephanie, this isn't working. Your great idea, Stephanie, to do X, well, it's terrible. It's not working, But my only request is come to me with a solution alongside the problem. Don't, you got to come to me with a solution. And that's really, if you approach this life that way, yes, there are going to be challenges. Yes, you're going to get knocked down. Yes, you're going to get turned down. You're going to have, issues, your kids, the whole thing. But, what is the solution? Shift your mindset to, creating a solution for those. And who knows, you might even come up with a phenomenal business idea. I have a military spouse who's moved with 2 kids more times than I have. I think they've moved like 14 times. She started a company called Stressless PCS. And it's all about how to PCS with no stress. And she created a labeling and an organizational system that is just brilliant. How did she come up with that? Because, she, had to pack up and move her family and kids so many times. So you never know when, a challenge is going to open the door to an opportunity.
Absolutely. There's something about busy hands, right? And you're always doing something, keeping the mind busy. What sort of advice would you have, with that being said, to a military spouse who's going through the struggle? You mentioned a couple in there already, but, I understand too, when they have younger kids, it might be a little bit more difficult because they're at home. But once they get into school, like that story you were telling earlier about the mother who was getting the kids off to school, going to the library, I thought that was a phenomenal story of just resilience and just figuring it out on their own. What advice would you have for someone who's going through that struggle?
Well, I often say define what success means to you first and foremost, right? Don't go by what your friends and other people are posting on social media. Remove all of that noise. Think honestly to yourself, what does success mean to me? Does it mean getting a job? Does it mean being the best stay-at-home or best mom I can possibly be? And then map out that plan. Now, it may change, and that's okay. And you may stumble off of that plan, and that's okay too. But if you map out that plan you've identified what success means to you. Hey, I want to go to school. Hey, I want to learn this skill. Whatever it is, or I want to start a business, or I love making these little bow ties for kids and all my friends are buying them. How can I maybe, create an e-com site or something? Whatever that plan is for you, not anybody else, right? Map it out. Because as soon as you map it out, you put it basically from your mind onto paper, so to speak, you've created a roadmap. And then you break that roadmap up into little bite-sized pieces. That's my advice. If it is, I just want to be happy and content and be a good, raise my kids, that's a roadmap too. How are you going to do that, right? Create a roadmap for yourself and break it up into bite-sized pieces. making 2 new friends, going on at least, one outing this month to get me out of the house, stop watching so much TV, whatever the case may be, create a roadmap and don't beat yourself up when you stumble, but surround yourself with people that will help you stay on that path and that will help you get further down that path. Avoid those, like I've said before, avoid those that you know in your heart and soul are not good for you. But if you create that path, that roadmap, and then break it up, every time you accomplish something on there, you'll be amazed at what it does to your spirit, right? You'll be amazed. It will impact not only your own sense of self-esteem, it'll impact your marriage. It'll impact you as a parent. I'll never forget, I was getting ready to go do a keynote. And the first time I ever did any kind of public speaking on a stage, I thought I was going to have a heart attack. In fact, I'll admit, I actually, dear God, please, if I can have a heart attack, then I don't have to get it. It was the most terrifying thing I've ever experienced in my life, and I've given birth. But, I come, now I speak all the time and I'm completely comfortable. It's not that I get up in the morning and go, hey, I want to go get up on stage. I don't. But I'll never forget, flying up to Sacramento to do this keynote, and I had taken my youngest at the time. He was like 13, I think. And he goes, Mom, are you nervous? Right? And I said, no. And he goes, you're not nervous? And I said, no, I'm talking about something I know and that I love and I'm passionate about. So it's the real me. I'm not trying to be somebody else. This is the real me in front of my tribe. So why would I be nervous? This is my tribe. They're here for the same reason I am. And he turned to me, I'll never forget. In fact, I wrote it down in my, I'm like, I got to remember this. He said, Mom, and this is a 13-year-old boy. Hello, when do you get insights like this from a teenage boy? He goes, Mom, you're an entrepreneur. I expect great and brave things from you. You're an entrepreneur. And that just kind of, wow, that stuck with me. So, yeah.
Just shows you the impact of what we do every day has on our kids. My kids are young, 9 and younger, 4 boys, but just the things that they remember and see you do, they follow suit. And it's amazing to see, but you always got to watch what you're doing too, especially in front of them.
That's
So
right.
last question, Stephanie.
More than they remember the rest of it.
Right? Absolutely.
And they'll remind you.
Yep, they sure do.
Yeah.
They got a mind like a steel trap. So last question here. What impact do you want to leave in the world and the community before you leave this earth?
Wow, that is a powerful question. Well, obviously, professionally speaking, obviously as a mom, I want my children to be, happy and healthy and living a life of faith, first and foremost, and live a life of faith myself, But, we lost Tom last year, so I'm, kind of in that single mom. So it's a little more challenging, but they're older. But I tell you, professionally for me, somebody asked me, threw my question back in my face, and well, Stephanie, what does success mean to you? And I said, success for me is that when I'm gone, nobody remembers who Stephanie was, but the Rosie Network is going strong, and the Milspouse Chamber is going strong, and Americans are buying veteran and military family owned. That's success. That it's nobody remembers or knows who I was. That it is standing and rocking it and crushing it on its own. That is my idea of success. And I think it's not a bad perspective to take when you enter into trying to build something, is if you're building it just about you and for you, based on you, then it's temporary. If you're building something bigger for a bigger purpose, then it will live on beyond you. So that's right. And I want life to be better for especially military spouses coming up behind me. I'll be 60 this year, so there are a lot of young military spouses out there. I want their quality of life to be, and not that mine wasn't great, don't get me wrong, but I want them to have more opportunities than I did and that my mother did before me as a military spouse.
If you enjoyed this interview as much as I did, let me know what you got out of the video in the comment section below. And if you haven't already done so, you can check out part 1 of Stephanie's interview right here. Or you can check out another one of our videos right here. We appreciate your continued support, and we'll see you in the next video.